welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, I'm Dana Alexis. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for tuning in. Also, thank you guys so much for 1,000 subscribers. That was a huge milestone for me to hit over here on YouTube. So even though if it doesn't seem like a lot, it meant the world to me. So thank you guys so much for your support. Before we get into today's video, I just wanted to let you guys know that I am launching my very own website, daynaralexis.com. So make sure you guys head over there and sign up for the email newsletters. That way you will be the first to be notified on any updates and exciting news regarding my website. Also get a sneak peek at my very own podcast named Daily Talks when it launches in August. Some of you may know I recently was diagnosed with stage 3 endometriosis. Let's start off with what is endometriosis. According to Google, it is a condition resulting from the appearance of endometrial tissue outside of the uterus and causing pelvic pain. But what does that really mean? Let's take a closer look. If you click on Google Images, you'll see a bunch of diagrams depicting clumps of tissue around a woman's body, but let's really look at what that looks like. This diagram here will represent my body, and this represents my uterus. Now, that pink lining that you see there, that is endometrial tissue. This is the tissue that sheds and bleeds when you're on your cycle, and it also reacts to all the different hormones and chemical signals from your brain. But the problem with endometriosis is that sometimes this endometrial tissue can travel outside of the uterus, and that's when it becomes a real issue. So remember that diagram I showed you? Well, this represents all the places that my doctor found endometriosis during my surgery. Yeah, even as high up as my gallbladder. Which, when I say that out loud, it sounds so frightening, but the way my doctor reassured me that he would take care of me and find us a good treatment plan that I could stick to, I'm just really grateful that I actually have a diagnosis finally after years of being in so much pain. And speaking of pain, let's go ahead and talk about what makes endometriosis so painful and why it's considered a chronic illness. All right, so let's recap. Endometrial tissue lives in your uterus. It sheds and bleeds when you're on your cycle. So the problem with endometriosis is once it migrates to all these different parts of the body, it still reacts to those same hormones and chemical messages from the brain. So yeah, when it's time for you to come on your period and flow comes to town, all the endometrial tissue in different places of your body are also starting to shed and bleed. That's what causes inflammation, eternal bleeding, and it just has nowhere to go. And it continues to grow and spread and can cause even more problems as time goes on. So in part 2 of this video series, I will be talking about my actual surgery, what I packed in my hospital bag, and all of that. And I'll also be talking about my recovery and what it's been like so far. But let's take a look at what happened before I even knew about endometriosis. What were my symptoms? How was my pain and things of that nature? And what was the red flag that led my doctor to actually say, hey, let's do this diagnostic surgery because I truly believe you have endometriosis. Let's start off with my symptoms. Before surgery, I had a range of symptoms, and for every woman, it's completely different. A lot of women face extreme pain during their periods, and honestly, I had pain-free cycles. It wasn't a thing to me. For me, my pain really kicked in around ovulation. I pretty much had a dull, consistent pain every single day. And around ovulation is when my pain would start to spike and get worse. My back would hurt, I would get random spasms, the side of my chest would feel like someone was stabbing me. It just was all over horrible. But I never knew that it was happening during ovulation until my doctor mentioned endometriosis. So after that doctor's appointment, I went home and I did my research and I started to track my full cycle the whole entire month. Not only was I tracking my periods and what I was feeling on those days, but I also started to track my ovulation. I bought a whole bunch of ovulation tests and a basal body temperature thermometer, and every single time I would start ovulating, I really started to look at my pain and what it really felt like and where it was located. Another strong symptom of mine was fatigue. I was always so tired, and honestly, ever since I had my daughter, I've been exhausted. I was exhausted because I was pregnant, exhausted because I just had a baby, exhausted because now I'm running after a toddler all day long. But it was getting to the point where I couldn't get out of bed I was canceling plans with family and friends because I just didn't want to go. I just wanted to sleep. I was calling out of work. I was falling asleep at work. I quit jobs because I literally could not get out of bed in the morning to be able to make it there on time. So fatigue was a huge signal that something was deeply wrong. I used to think that, man, it was just laziness and I needed to kick that bad habit. But even when I felt super motivated to do something, my body was just so drained and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. My third and the final symptom that I'm going to talk about in this video is what a lot of people describe as endo belly, which is also extreme bloating. I would get extremely bloated. I still kind of do to this day. And it would just be so painful no matter what I ate, no matter how I drank, how much I exercised, how much I slept. Nothing worked. I always would get super bloated around 1 o'clock every single day. I'll insert some pictures of how badly my bloating would get in just a few hours. It was insane to me. And at first it didn't really bother me because I knew a lot of women get bloated. But it really started to bother me when it would be so tight, I felt like I could cry. I felt like my stomach was gonna rip open from the inside out. So endo belly and extreme bloating was a huge symptom of mine, and I saw a nutritionist. I talked to my pediatrician about it. I talked to my primary care. I've talked to the OB who delivered my daughter about how crazy bloated I was all the time, and a lot of them just told me I wasn't eating right. Even when I swore and I told them this is what I'm eating, I changed my diet, it's still not going away, they still would tell me that it was my diet. So I never got anywhere with that, and I just thought that I was always predisposed to being extremely bloated like this. That is just a general overview of what my symptoms were before my surgery, and kind of all those things put together is what really signaled my doctor that there was a huge underlying cause here. I'm just so grateful to Dr. Nettie for actually listening to me and advocating for me and not letting up until he found a diagnosis. I remember before going into surgery, he actually came to my bedside and he asked me, how are you feeling? Are you doing okay? Do you have any questions? And I just asked him, like, what if it's not endometriosis? Like, what if nothing's there? What if it's in my head? And he just stopped me right there and was like, it's not. And he said if he didn't find any endometriosis, that he wasn't gonna stop until he got me a diagnosis. So I'm just very grateful that I had a doctor who really listened to me after years of doctors telling me it was nothing, and for me thinking that it was in my head. It's been kind of a learning curve trying to teach everybody in my family, all of my friends, and even myself how to manage something that I'm gonna have for the rest of my life. But it's been great and such a weight off of my shoulders to finally know there was something wrong. I hope this video gave you guys some information on what endometriosis is, and if you're facing some of the symptoms that I mentioned, I hope it gives you some hope that there is something wrong. It's not in your head, and maybe gives you that confidence to go ahead and ask your doctor about endometriosis as a possible diagnosis for you. Thank you guys so much for listening and tuning into today's video. Thank you so much for supporting me and my little channel here. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in another video.